Hi, welcome. This is Alison DeNicola and Beyond the Cards. And today I have a wonderful honor of my special guest, Ms. Laura Santi, the author of Buddha Wisdom, Shakti Power. And welcome, Laura. Great to have you here.
Thanks. Nice to be here.
Awesome. So I'm going to read a little bit about what Laura wrote about herself. I asked her a little bio, and we're going to start with that, and then we'll get a chance to chat and hear straight from her. But Laura says that she loves all styles and centuries of thangka painting and Hindu art and draws from them all in her work. She does this because she believes any heritage to thrive should grow and change. This mixing of details, like the spacing of the points of a crown or choosing proportions for a Buddha by pulling from iconography of the 9th century through the 17th century, is her way of doing that. And it keeps her work interesting and new for her. She wants her paintings to feel connected and true to Buddhist and historical iconography, but her main interest is to make beautiful, compelling images that a viewer can connect with and feel nourished from day to day. I love that. What a beautiful description of what inspires you, or why you've done your art, and what you want to have come out of that. And I'm going to segue right into asking you how you got started painting in this style. Before you answer that question, I want to just share the cover of your card deck, just as a little descriptor for people who maybe are not familiar with that style of thangka painting that comes from Tibetan culture, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
Following Tibetan.
Yeah.
Gosh, there's so many pieces actually to the story, but generally I could say I was studying meditation and working, and I kind of felt like I needed a hobby. So I was surrounded by these paintings in the ashram where I lived, and I thought they were really beautiful. I never would have thought I could paint like that because they seemed so detailed and whatnot, but I played around with it for party decorations. We did some big fake thangkas for decorating for a party, and that was really fun. And then I had a dream, and my teachers in the dream said, paint a Moga city. And I was like, I have no idea who that is. And I woke up in the middle of the night and I tried to write down that name. And I asked him the next day, and I said, is this a real thing? And he said, yeah, you could do that if you want. And after that, I could paint. And so it sort of just kind of grew from there. And I never really had any plans for it. I was kind of a Sunday painter, and then it kind of took off, and I was an acupuncturist, but then I was suddenly selling the art and getting commissions, and I got more interested in it. And then the art sort of took over, and the acupuncture kind of faded away. And so then I formally quit acupuncture about 4 years ago, and now I paint.
Wow. So it's really like I want to go back a little bit to just the context of you living in the ashram. How did you find yourself in the ashram? How long did you live there? And was that where you first discovered those paintings?
That certainly is where I first discovered those paintings. I was just, your basic white bread girl from Ohio, and I wasn't finding satisfaction in the religion I was born in, a Christian religion. And so I was sort of looking around, shopping, and I still wasn't really finding anything that seemed very interesting. And so I was sort of, tabled that conversation in my mind. And then I had a boyfriend who said, I used to study with this Swami guy. You want to meet him? And I said, sure, So I went and I met him. I was like, oh, I think I'll do this for a while. And then I just stayed. So that just kind of happened like that.
And when you say you stayed, how long were you there for?
Let's see. So I met him when I was like 20 or something like that. And the ashram formally dissolved like 2 years ago. So I was there for 30 some years. Wow. Yeah. And I'm still connected with that group, and the teachers sort of I guess you could say, retired. Mm-hmm. But we still gather and have that sort of a life together in a certain sort of way. But all that art in all those hallways, a lot of that got sold and,
Wow.
gone away. But, seeing that for the first time was just, to me, mind-boggling, because the images are so different from Christian art and Western style of thinking about right and wrong and normal and, what's inspiring and everything. I was just like, each vision was like blowing me away. Like, why is that deity so mad looking? And how come that one, is standing on a person? What does all that mean? And, so slowly, as you learn more and more, people kind of point out little things like, look at the eyes in that fierce, mean looking deity. Do you see the anger there? There's actually not anger there. And that's a really tricky thing to paint. Can you make somebody look fierce and controlling and in power, but not mean and closed-hearted? So that's a fun thing to try and do. Can I make that image true to what it really was trying to represent? Because there's no anger or kind of you might think of the non-virtuous emotions in those lineages. It's all virtue, but it's just in a very different way that we might think.
I mean, I love it. I think I actually learned a lot of that from your deck, and I want to come back to that, because I think discovering that through the process of painting, right? Like you were uncovering that either through painting or just studying, and then being able to paint that image, the deity or the symbol or whatever it was that you were capturing. You really have to know it, right? You have to kind of like feel it.
Yeah. I don't think I ever would have gotten as far as I've gotten now if I didn't have those teachers that, and just sort of the daily immersion of the practice and working with, we learned a lot of Buddhist healing techniques. And so you're kind of looking and reading a lot of that literature and hearing about it. So the more you see and hear little things like pointing out that the eyes of the deities don't look angry, if it's a true art, somebody who really knows what they're doing, more and more you pick up like that, what's actually happening in those paintings. So yeah, it was my good fortune to have those teachers who inspired me in both, getting to paint and also understanding the iconography.
So do you feel like you're living your Dharma, really, right? You went from the one place and you're over here painting pretty amazing, incredible images of these a lot of them very powerful and, deities and symbols that, have compelled you to move from one place to the other. Does it feel like that, or does that feel like a big statement to say that?
I feel like this has been the most compelling interests of my life, is to study in that way. And, everything else sort of paled. Like I never got married and had children, even though, as a youngster, I kind of thought I would, just like anyone else, kind of you start out thinking that lifestyle. But I was always sort of kept, I'd rather than go on a date, I prefer to sit down and meditate. So, just sort of ended up that way. Does that answer your question? Or
I don't know. Curious. Like I heard, heard you saying that you left. You studied acupuncture and were an acupuncturist up until 4 years ago, and you've, just decided to move past that and to become the full-time artist. But you were probably the artist before then, right?
Yeah, I started around 2000. Yeah. So I've been doing it for a while now. And like I said, I was a Sunday painter, and, like all week I would wait for Sunday to come, so I could and I would paint all day listening to NPR.
Oh, I love it.
And then that slowly sort of took over. And then my acupuncture world, I realized I could work one day less a week. So I was painting 2 days a week, and then, it kept going on and on from that. So
yeah, it's awesome.
And then I had a friend who introduced me to the idea of doing giclée prints. I didn't know what a giclée print was. I had no interest in selling prints of the art, but he was kind of pushing me like, you want a record of what you've done, why don't you do this? And then I had a friend, a woman who moved in next to me in the ashram, who said, I'll set you up at an Etsy shop. So, then I had that. And so it's kind of unfolded like that. And then I guess you saw me either through Pinterest or Etsy, and Etsy posts on Pinterest. So that's how you would have found me there. So that's how people found me and keep finding me. Is through those venues.
And I think I reached out to you because I was looking for an artist to work on a card deck and an Eastern tradition kind of deck. And I reached out to you, and I remember very distinctly you saying, you don't want me as an artist. It takes me like 10 years to do one painting. Or, you were said the style of art I'm doing and the size and all of that is, is beyond. Like it would take me the 2 lifetimes to be able to paint that. And it was great because we had a nice, chat and rapport and honesty. And then when I started to look at your work and I shared it around, they were like, let's make a card deck out of her art. This art is so beautiful. So what was interesting was that you had, like 45 or 50 images out of various paintings that
Right.
were able to, be put together.
Yeah, it was actually really fascinating being walked through the process of making the deck by you guys, because I didn't even know anything about them. I had a tarot deck, but that's all I knew. And like thinking, how would this be a divination deck? Am I making this up? And then the more you kind of study the concept of what would you do to introduce people to the deities and also to make it something valuable and real for them, you realize, well, it is real. These are energetic states. And people are going to be drawn to energy. They always are. And, be picking a card blind or picking a card because you like the imagery, you're still being drawn to something energetic underneath that. And so it's a real thing. It's actually, okay, that energy is sort of matching you. I don't know if anyone listening to this knows anything about the concept of homeopathy, that form of medicine, but it's kind of the idea that like cures like. So your vibration, what you need or attract in the world, is matched by those cards. And so it's sort of, it's something that kind of cancels each other out. It's like 2 waveforms colliding and sort of, making calm.
Yeah. And I think from the time this card deck hit, I actually pulled a card before I came online with you. And it was funny because I just got an email from somebody saying it was a Vishnu celebration, I think in the next week and a half.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. And so it was a Vishnu card that came out. And I thought, wow, that's so interesting. Maybe my thought form, because I just was reading that, magnetized this card to come out and to have me reconnect with the sustainer, who I think about, because this morning I was using some Tulsi. This is the way my mind works. All the little dots connect, and the Tulsi holy basil is thought to embody the energy of Vishnu. Of the
that's pretty interesting.
That's pretty interesting, right? There's the way I just made connected the dots on that. Like, that's pretty wild. So all of those pieces coming together today, and I totally agree. People are really interested and magnetized to this deck, and it's been. I mean, I'm trying to think when it came out. 2017.
I can't remember either when one of those questions was how long. I don't know.
I want to say it was 2017, but it's really quite still being discovered and quite popular. And in that, for the fine art quality. So, kudos on the beauty of the art. But also, I find a lot of people really like it because there's a learning in some of these deities that are not so well popularized or spoken about, or if you don't have a teacher that teaches you about it, this is a kind of a place to go to kind of uncover what that energy feels like.
And that was one of the things that I really enjoyed about making the deck and writing about the deities as well, particularly like, for instance, the concept of Tantrism, which is so misunderstood in our culture. Everyone thinks it has something to do with sexual energy, but sort of, but not really. It's more about the entirety of your life. So it's not just the sex chakra, it's all 7 chakras. And it's about taking the energy of life, all of it, and taking it onto the past. So everything that you do, you can be a householder or a lover or whatever you are, but all of that becomes grist for your mill of work. growing as a human being. And it's sort of like empowered as such by a teacher, rather than just kind of like that funny way it's become known in our culture of something about sex and only about sex. So I got to say that, got to say my two cents. It was nice.
Awesome. Well, the tantric philosophy. And I also think and I think we probably had this conversation, and that's why it's coming up in my mind. The idea that some of these deities are quite fierce, or you need to take care when you're, in that energy, or be mindful or be respectful, I'm going to say, of that. Whereas it's pretty popular right now for people to kind of flow around from thing to thing. I see this a lot. There's no judgment, but I think we all need to have that respect for things that we don't know about, and
I would agree.
Approach it in that way, because I've heard stories or seen people kind of invoke and get involved in things that are way bigger than their capacity to, deal with it or hold it, or, it can throw you off kilter. So it's nice to.
I agree. Having a teacher is a handy and good thing. Kind of keep you on the path of, keep you from falling into a wrong situation. The biggest search word that people use for my Etsy site is Kali. The energy of that deity, and she's a really fierce deity, and she's, I guess, very popular right now in our culture, and that would be an example perfectly of what you're talking about. It's like, okay, she's pretty strong energy, and it's also so misunderstood. The images of her painting in the last century are so they make her look mean and bloodthirsty. And she's not that at all, but it's like, again, that's misunderstanding, by our cultural filters of looking at some of the ancient art, and you think, well, she kind of looks mad. Her tongue is hanging out, and there's blood everywhere, but it's not that at all. And so, she starts to be misunderstood and misused, I think.
Yeah, I would agree. It's funny. It's interesting too, because I'm doing a little goddess workshop this weekend with three goddesses. Artemis, who always speaks to me and is really connected to intention, but green Tara, and somehow Kali made her way in there, which would not ordinarily be something I would do as a group, but I think it's the beginning of the year while we're recording this, and there's a little bit of revolutionary energy, I think, that needs to happen. And the way I experience her is that when I'm really holding tight to something that I need to let go of, she comes along and she kind of unravels it, whether she unravels it, with compassion and, says like, let go, or she pulls the string or the tape, and the whole thing comes unwound. So I'm curious to see how that manifests this weekend as you're speaking about that. And I tried not to use the image of her, with the skulls and the blood, just because it's hard for people to step on. Some people do like it, but some people are like, I don't know if I'm ready to go there.
Have you seen my last painting, which was Kali, second to last?
It's a new. No, I haven't seen it.
I think it shows her pretty more realistically, rather than the bloodthirsty ogre that she's kind of portrayed in kind of new art. So I'll send you.
Okay, awesome. I love that. I love to see it. So on that note, what is your flavor of the day? Maybe not your favorite deity or a theme, but is there something that really you continue to go back to, or something that really you feel like,
Well, I like them all, and I feel like I continue to kind of understand them as I work with them more and more. Lately, I've just been thinking a lot about the protective deities for people who do the practice of Chu, which is I have some of those images in the deck, and it's a Buddhist healing prayer. But again, you're kind of asking these demons and negative psychic energies that are maybe hurting a person to feast on you and then go away. Once you're happy and satisfied with all that juicy food, then you can depart. And so that could be a little dangerous. And so you always kind of think, gosh, how does that work? I don't want to have my body feasted on. And and then you start to understand a little bit more, like, well, it's like a giving that never ends. Like, love is love, and it just keeps on going. It doesn't really get expired or expunged. And I don't know. Can I even explain more than that? I don't think I can. The three deities that are the protective deities for people who do that are white Mahakala, and he's like kind of looking around. He's looking at not you when you're looking at his picture, and he's offering jewels. So it's like he's like saying, here, take this lovely thing, but it's kind of like warding off by giving something. So that's him. And then there's Palden Lama, who's like a really fierce. She's one of the three most fierce deities, and like everything about her iconography is like mind-bending for the Westerner. She's sitting on a saddle made from the skin of her son, and she's riding a mule or something like that, and she's just totally fierce, and blood and gore everywhere and all that. And it's kind of the idea that if you're gonna be able to help somebody or grow spiritually, you kind of have to disconnect from your family life or your culture a little bit, and be a little bit more objective about that. And how do you do that? You have to kind of offer all of that, a lot of love and support, but kind of go along your way. So she's on this little, what do you call it? Her mount, and she's riding away, and she's sitting on her son's skin, which is kind of like, family life is wonderful, but sometimes if you're going to do that higher work, you kind of have to let that go. So, again, it can be so misconstrued. It's not like she's this total ogre that's killed her son. It's different than that. It's a symbol.
Yeah. It's a disconnection from, I always hear it like this when people are kind of rising on their path, right? Maybe making their way to the next levels. The path doesn't get wider, the path gets narrower, right? The path gets harder to walk, in that, there is more sacrifice, there is more, aloneness. I don't know how else to say that, on those spiritual paths when we, start to make our way in certain places. And that can be the same thing as, being able to disconnect from the emotional body about, what you're leaving behind or what is holding you, what you're attached to. So it's pretty profound, really. None of us want to do it. But there is that archetype or that energy in the world that is necessary for some things to happen.
True. And it's always kind of like a choice. You're sort of walking along life. You keep getting opportunities for this or that. So you just kind of keep making choices. It's not so much that you're discarding something as, do I want this or do I want that? Yeah. Oh, I want that. So I'm going to go that way. I'm
going to go down this road. So you said there were three. So those were the two.
Let's see what else. Oh, Marchungma. She's looks less fierce than the other one. She's a dancing red dakini image. And she kind of embodies like a life force. And so, lately I've just been thinking a lot about that. Like, okay, if I'm doing that practice, what is she doing? What is she, how does she protect me from doing that practice? Well, maybe it's because she's going to protect my life force. I don't know. Because you're kind of giving psychically, or kind of helping propel, somebody who's ill and through the miasma of, their various little demons that are attached. Because in the Tibetan way of thinking, illness is all spirit, it's all spirits and energies that are kind of demons and whatnot. And so you're thinking more like that, how do you feed that and make it happy so that it can be dissolved? And again, it's just that like cures like again, it's like you kind of bring a fierce to the fierce, give it what it wants, then it dissipates.
And then it goes away. Yeah, it's really, really interesting. And I think in some of the shamanic traditions, actually, have that viewpoint too about, illness and disharmony being, spirit energies in the world, rather than something that's happening to us. It's like a different viewpoint to say, not, this. We were having this discussion today about COVID, and it was like, which we don't have to get into that because that'll just
but
take
it's actually kind of fascinating.
right off the rails here. But just the idea of respecting things that are there, but not allowing them to control you. And so it goes back to that respecting of what's there, having acknowledgement and respect for something that is there. Again, maybe the Tibetans would have us feed COVID some jewels or some emeralds or something.
You never know. Yeah, I don't know, but
or carnations or something.
Whenever something overcomes a population, be it a belief system or an illness or whatever, it's still kind of the same. It sort of drags. Gets everybody in the throat and kind of drags you off in a certain direction, and to me that's some sort of psychic energy. It's like a cloud of that's settled over people and kind of caught their brains in a certain sort of way. So I think they would treat it like that.
That's just a funny. I don't know what made me think of that, but well, hopefully we'll be moving out of this phase is what I'm hoping. And we can get on to building our world in a better way and bringing more, connection and collaboration and community and collaboration of thought. And so that's how I feel what you're doing. You're a messenger of a lot of these thoughts for people through this card deck, which is really unique and really beautiful. So yay, I'm so glad that we got a chance to catch up on this. I did want to ask you, and I've tried to ask everyone that comes on, if there's something else about you that people don't know, like your superpower other than your superpower, art superpowers and your acupuncture superpowers. But
I'm a great dishwasher.
Oh my God.
Sorry, making a joke. I don't know, not really. Pretty simple person. Like to garden, like to cook. Really enjoy art and other people's art. Yeah, the Balkan country printmakers, boy, those people, they know their thing. No, I really don't have much more I could think to say. I don't know. I guess these days, I'm more and more interested in the 9th and 10th century type of art. I'm sort of kind of deciding I'm not going to really paint much more in the more Chinese influenced styles of the 17th, 18th centuries. I just like that rougher stuff more. And so my paintings are more like that these days. And I'm painting a little more in the Hindu tradition, and that's kind of fun. They seem a little more lighthearted than the Tibetans are very serious.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of entertaining and interesting. So I'm just continuing to paint as long as my little painting arm will hold out and my eyesight. And I'm also enjoying my little coloring books that I do. I love writing quips and jokes and, funny little short, pithy things about the deities to try and make it accessible and interesting, but fun and not scary. Something that's, accessible for Westerners to kind of be an intro to different ways of thinking about Chinese philosophy or Tibetan philosophy. And so I have my little coloring books, and
have you thought about doing a little ebook of that?
They're both ebooks right now.
Oh, they are? Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I'm trying to get one now on Amazon. Being a Luddite, I have to be coached. So I've had somebody helping me do that. So hopefully that'll be soon.
Excellent.
But yeah, you can buy those. Oh Deity Divine and 5 Secrets of the River Chi are available on Etsy.com.
Awesome. Great. So we'll, of course. It's great to see you. Look forward to seeing more of your creations, more of your art. And
Send you that, Kelly.
Yeah, love it. And we'll post the links with this interview so people can check it out.
Okay.
All right. Thanks so much, Laura. Take care.
Bye-bye. You
Bye.
too.